that is the renewed Adam. So how do we see this this reigning to Moses? Why is there this Adam to Moses bridge here? How would you see a way of reading that from for us as Hebrews grafted in? Because he's talking about Moses now, and I think Moses gives us perhaps this image in our mind of the Decalogue, of the law, of what the mitzvah are. But
Mm.
do we understand as well that within that whole Sinai event there were the Erev Rav? So when we talk about Moses, even his whole life, I mean, he went off to Midian and he married Jethro's
Yep.
daughter, and
Yep.
so you have when a Jew teaches us about Moses, we in Christianity often think of, well, he's talking about the law, but there's
Mm.
something much more nuanced here going on.
Well, yes. He says death reigned from Adam until Moses. He's talking. Um, we were not. So when at the time of Moses, Hashem comes down himself and delivers and makes a people for himself. So prior to that, this is like the fulfillment of the prophet. He's making his nation now. So prior to that, there was no nation of God, nation of God on the planet. There were godly people who were trying to their best to gather themselves together and increase their influence on the planet and get bigger and bigger. Then suddenly, from the time of Moses, the nation of God is born. It's like there is a people now who are no longer subject. Yes, who are no longer subject to someone else's sovereignty. You understand?
Mm.
So that's why death reigns from Adam till Moses, because there is somebody else's sovereignty around until Moses comes along. It's the first, like if the foot in the door, the salesman's foot in the door. Now you can't expel it. It's too late. Things have gone too far now. No longer are they just a group of people trying to establish themselves and become uh, uh, independent of the nations around them. They are now sovereign. So the sovereignty begins. The sovereignty of the people of God begins at Mount Sinai. That's what the reference there is. So that's why death no longer reigns, because what Mount Sinai gives us is a hope, actually. The first chance for the Erev Rav to become grafted in from any nation, any language, any tribe. You can all be grafted in, become Hebrew now, through keeping the laws of the Toshav, which is basically, again, what he's talking about. The Toshavim are born at Mount Sinai. Before Mount Sinai, there are no Toshavim. There are Chochmei Umat Ha'olam, but there are no Toshavim at that point, because all there is the seven laws of Noah without the biblical revelation at Mount Sinai, which gives somebody a chance to become Hasdei Umat Ha'olam, to
So
become
these
believers.
these specific instructions are very key because where we read from a Christianity background, we'll read right away that therefore is another covenant instituted by Moses. So the Mosaic covenant is the adherence to the law, and therefore in the dispensational framework which these messianic rabbis follow, that they think, well, that God broke. Well, if you look at the book of Romans, the covenant is only mentioned once. It's mentioned in the previous chapter with Abraham. And that, of course, yeah, obviously shows this promise of this grafting in of the big family. We see that clearly today with Abraham's children. But Moses is not referred to as a covenant here unless to the Kechal and then to the heir of Rav, which that detailed information is not easily extracted from a sola scriptura reading of the text unless you understand and have those who keep the oracles of God to give us that information through the oral Torah. And but then again, this whole the whole toshav, the foreigner,
Yeah.
the whole understanding of that now being been given explicitly is also embedded within that word Moses. It's not that we read Moses and we find the Mosaic covenant. No, we find something very nuanced in
Yeah.
two directions in the two-tier system of the Kechal and the Edah. And the Edah was present right there as well. We have that very clearly in Acts. I think it is in Stephen's sermon. This Edah they're mentioned. And so, everything is what Paul is relaying here as a Pharisee is compacted into this and is a teaching, and these narratives behind us are there implied.